On this week's episode, we talk about our games of the year, Marvel's Wolverine being playable on PC first, Rockstar's leaked source code and potential game leak, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 12. I am your host, the man who got turned into a potato for Christmas, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who used the lemons life gave him for Christmas to create a combustible lemon and burn life's house down with the lemons, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today, Justin?
Very good, very good to, finally use those lemons. But I had a very good week. I had an enjoyable Christmas, spent some time with my sister, her boyfriend, and her kids, and with my parents as well. Made some dinner for everyone. It was a pretty good time. Had, some extra days off. Worked yesterday, but I had off today, so that's that's nice to have that. But yeah, it's been a relatively slow weekend once Friday started, so it's been pretty enjoyable and nice. How about you?
Pretty good. Of course, I've been on vacation this whole past week, so it's been nice to have plenty of time to relax. I mean, there's been some stuff we've had to do, as normal for each week, but for the most part, it's been relaxing. And one of the Christmas gifts that my wife, just gifts that my wife and I give each other in general for any holiday where we give gifts, is we give each other individual days off. So, there'll be an entire day where I'm not dealing with the kids or having to worry about anything else, and vice versa. So today was my day to just completely rest the whole day. It was already a sleep-in day. And then I didn't have to do anything with the kids today, so I just played video games the majority of the day. And it was very nice. Streamed it a bit and all that, but Christmas was great. Got some time with the kids, and yesterday helped my oldest son with a woodworking kit. We built can't remember the type of truck it is, but it's basically just like a wooden truck, like one of those, not a garbage truck, but like one you'd see like in a construction yard. For some reason I can't think of what it's called.
Like a dump truck?
Well, not really a dump truck exactly. I mean, it does function like that, but when I think of a dump truck, I think of, a garbage truck, and this is not what that is. So anyway.
Okay.
Either way, it's something that he and I built together, and I've done various other things with the kids, and it's been fun. Been a good time. And let's see, what do I have? I have about a week left of time off. Well, rather, I'll be back to work next Tuesday. So I guess it's not quite a week. It's like 5 days or 4 days, something like that. But anyway. So, what have you been playing this past week?
Well, one of the biggest things I've been playing this past week has been Batman Arkham Origins. I did my challenge last Friday, tried to stream the game, and for the most part, it turned out pretty well. As far as, I guess I should say, after getting everything to set up, because I had some technical issues, but everything else, though, playing the game was good. Did have a problems, though, with my usual, every time I play the first boss fight, there's always an issue with it. There's always some glitch.
Yeah.
This time, it was possibly the worst one, just because the camera completely broke.
Oh.
And you couldn't see anything that was going on.
Oh.
So I restarted the boss fight several times before I figured out if I do a takedown near the middle of the arena instead of near the edge, the camera will not break.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then after that, everything was smooth sailing. I did get further past where I did last time, so before I was trying to sneak into one of the buildings, got shot by a sniper and died. This year, I died to Bane, which, I don't feel too bad because it's Bane,
Yeah.
but it was enjoyable. I did start to really get drowsy, as the time went on, and I felt like I really should have been better prepared for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was well. I finally finished Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I had to do some more grinding just to level up to beat one of the earlier fights, or one of the endgame fights, and after that, I was just feeling very determined and just stubborn and refused to just give up. So I just plowed away through the rest of the final 2 missions and finished it. I'm glad I've gotten that out of the way because overall, I would not say that I found this game to be completely enjoyable. It's decent. I like the customization you can do with it, but I feel compared to other Dragon Ball fighting games that I've played, and even though this one's not a fighting game, Kakarot, they all just blow this one out of the water. So I'm glad it's out of the way. Unless I see something about the second game that feels like a bit of an overhaul, I might not touch it. I might have it in my library, but I may or may not play it. But it's over with. It's done, so I can put that on my shelf.
Nice.
And then one other game that I've been playing. Well, actually, oh gosh, I feel like I've just had a blank here. But well, while I think about that one game, I will say that yesterday I sort of played V Rising. That one's not one that I really have. I played that over at a friend's house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I got him a Steam Deck, and I got him a couple of games just to like help him build up his sort of Steam library and stuff for stuff like that. And one of the games he wanted was V Rising. He wasn't completely comfortable because that game by default is really just a mouse and keyboard game, and so playing that on a Steam Deck, you just have keyboard controls and the layout. So I had to sort of show him how that would work, how things are mapped and which buttons to do. So played some of that, and actually it seems like an interesting game, a nice little survival game, but with this sort of vampire aesthetic and theme. So that's actually not a bad game, and I probably might even get it once it's actually out of early access, because I did see that it is still just like in that stage for right now. Oh, but I do remember a couple other games that I have been playing. One of them is Final Fantasy IV 3D, or as it was originally entitled, Final Fantasy IV DS. I played that game a long time ago back on the DS, and I loved it so much. And I got it years later on Steam, but when I started playing the game, I realized something about this does not seem right to me. Something seems weird. And after looking around, and especially after once I toggled on the frame rate, I realized the game only runs at 30 frames per second.
Yeah.
And 15 in battles.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw your footage and I was like, whoa, that footage, what is with the battles? Why is that so slow?
Yeah, and I stopped playing the game once I realized how bad it felt, because I realized this does not look good at all. But because I had seen someone talking about how they had, in a video I had seen someone talking about how they had played Final Fantasy VI and it was a great game they enjoyed growing up, I thought, you know what, maybe I should go back and see if I can go back to Final Fantasy IV. It's still kind of rough trying to play that the way it is, and I really wish that Square Enix had put the time into properly optimizing that game, because it's pretty much just directly porting the DS version over to it without any additional changes. I'll see if I feel like putting much more time into the game, but as of right now, just because of the performance, I'm not entirely certain if I want to. But the last game that I have been playing was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate some more, and that's partially because my niece and nephew wanted to play some more Mario, even though that wasn't a Mario game. And I will say that something that I realized is that I went back playing by myself later on, and I realized that I was much better at 1v1 fights than playing in a group. So while I'm not as good as I was before, I'm not as bad as I thought I was either. So that there's that silver lining there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, with Final Fantasy IV, I mean, like I've just noticed in general, a lot of the older Square Enix games, they don't have, I mean, they have the frame rate capped much lower, and I don't know if there's a way to change that. I mean, I would definitely look into it though, see if there's a way to remove that frame cap, because
Unfortunately, from what people have said, because I did look into some of the forums, is that the frame rate, they tied that directly to the game engine. So if you speed up the frame rate, you'll actually speed up the game itself. So that includes the time, pretty much every aspect of the game. So you'll sort of like double the time, which also doubles like how enemies react. So their reaction time will double.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so that, unfortunately, unlocking it won't do much of a difference.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember playing that and I really enjoyed it as well. It's definitely a lot harder than the base version of Final Fantasy IV. Like I remember, I mean, like particularly I remember, I can't remember which Bahamut it was, but it's the one that you face on the moon at the end. And in the original Final Fantasy IV, the way that you get past his thing is you cast, I think, reflect on well, it's something to do with reflect. Like I think you cast reflect on yourself in order to hit him with spells. I mean, you use them on your party to reflect them off, and you can do that in the original version of Final Fantasy IV, and that's basically how you take him out, because he puts reflect on himself right away. And so if you try to use spells on him, you can't do anything to him. But in the DS version, that strategy didn't work. And I just remember there being a variety of different situations where it was much harder. I mean, it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. But definitely was harder. So, yeah. Cool, though. Yeah, and I don't know about Xenoverse 2, if it's really any different from 1, because I didn't play 1. I've only played a little bit of 2, and I mean, from looking at the footage, at least, it looks like they're pretty much the same game for the most part, so you're probably better off just skipping 2, but I don't know. So, sounds good. Well, as my intros probably suggested, I got back into the Portal games this week. So I had been one of the things I've been wanting to do was do a comparison between. I mean, one of the comparisons I wanted to do was the Switch versions of the Portal games versus the Steam Deck versions, and I haven't done that yet. I haven't checked that out, but I saw that the Portal games, the collection, which is unfortunately only digital, was on sale for like $6.79 or something, and then with some credit I had, it was like $5 for the collection. So I just bought it, and I decided to start playing them, and I played through both games completely. It's been a while since I played through either of them, so I definitely didn't remember all the solutions to the puzzles, and it's a little different controlling in terms of I'm so used to playing on mouse and keyboard, so you have a lot more fast reactions and everything with the mouse, especially like when it comes to those very timed portal like insertions, like when you get launched up in the air and you have to shoot a portal at one of the platforms that's up high, and then you drop through the portal and come out that one, and then you have to put another portal up there, and you keep doing that to get climbing up. This is from the original Portal, and I was struggling with that a bit more than anything else. But yeah, either way, I of course I fully enjoyed the first Portal. It took me longer than it should have. I think probably like 4 hours to get through it. Where realistically, if I had remembered the solutions to everything, been playing mouse and keyboard, I probably could have gotten through it in an hour. But anyway, and then I played all the way through Portal 2, which of course, as I've said, is my second favorite game of all time, and it's so good. It's just it's such an incredible game. It's like you have great puzzles, you have incredible humor. Like, and the first Portal game is really funny, but the second game is even funnier. And it's just, and the story is interesting too. Just the various things that they did with it, the direction they went with everything. And then to top it all off, these are actually really great ports. I mean, you would expect for a game that came out during, PS3, at least for the second Portal and everything, that it would have to run well. But yeah, 60 frames per second all across the board, no problems whatsoever. Great visuals. I haven't done the comparison between it and the Steam Deck version, or rather playing it on Steam Deck. But I would imagine that, apart from the fact that the Steam Deck can get up to 90 frames, which this will definitely run at 90, there's no question, that it will probably look very similar. I can't remember if there's a field of view slider on the Steam version or not. That there wasn't really any real graphical options on the Switch version. But yeah, I mean, looks and runs great, and I was very happy with it. So that was the main thing with that. But then also, because I received a couple of games from you for Christmas, I decided to jump into Monster Hunter Rise. And basically, I'm mostly trying to get through the tutorial stuff and get to actually like hunting monsters and everything. And I got to one of the first like exploration missions when you can fight an Arzuros. Man, I am really rusty with the controls. Like I was struggling to remember how to use the charge blade properly, because like that's basically been my go-to since Monster Hunter 4. And so I was just really struggling with the controls, and then on top of that, like I kept pressing the wrong buttons for dodging and everything else, and like I couldn't kill the Arzuros. I got killed 3 times, and it's like then I'm forgetting to heal myself, and it's just But in terms of how it runs great on the Steam Deck. Basically, high settings, can do 60 frames, no problem. I got it up to 90 at one point, more just in the main town, and I thought maybe I could maintain that. There was kind of like a weird visual effect, though, that I didn't really like, and so I decided to bump the resolution up to 150% so that it would look a little better, and then it only goes up to 60, but I mean, 60 is still great. So I mean, it's still a massive improvement over the Switch version, which, I mean, to be fair, the Switch version actually looks really good. It's one of the best looking games on Switch, but on Steam Deck it just looks significantly better and runs a lot better and everything else. But really, if I'm actually going to play it, I need to go to the tutorial missions that you can do to practice with the weapons and be reminded exactly of everything, because the biggest problem I'm having is remembering the right buttons for running and for dodging. And so I just keep pressing the wrong buttons and then get myself smacked by, whatever it is that's going after me, and then forgetting to get away enough to heal myself and, making some mega potions and all that. So it's just kind of like, okay, I need to, I will come back to it at a later time. But because I had gotten a comment on one of the recent Switch versus Steam Deck comparison videos, someone had mentioned that because of how bad the load time was for getting into Dragon Quest, which is the most recent one I put up, they had said that they didn't think Fallout 4 would have significant problems with running. And I hadn't played Fallout 4 yet. I have it, but I just hadn't played it at all. But I just decided randomly to go ahead and install it and try it out. So it actually runs really, really well. I was shocked. I did a couple of minor things with the visual settings before I started it up, and it pretty much maintains 90 frames per second without any problems.
Huh.
I can't remember. I'd have to look at my footage a little more closely to see if it was doing that as much when I was getting into some of the more hectic situations where I had like a mutant coming after me and was shooting him with my power suit. I mean, using my power suit and my minigun and all that, and be able to tell whether it actually maintains that 90 there. But otherwise, it was 90 without any problems, and it still looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look as good as Starfield, obviously. It looks better than Fallout 3, but still not great. It definitely looks more dated, and more than I thought it would. Because I knew it didn't look as good as Starfield, but I thought that it would look better than it does, and it's kind of not quite there. But either way, it's still pretty cool. I thought it was interesting to check out. Otherwise, of course, I played a little bit of Sea of Stars. Not as much as I would have liked, but more just because timing didn't really work out as much for that in general. But then also because of the fact that I just decided to spend a bunch of time playing Metal Gear Solid 5. So I played a good amount of Metal Gear Solid 5. I actually decided to stream that this morning. After I took care of my normal morning stuff that I needed to do, I streamed it for a couple hours. I'm basically just kind of focusing on this game from here out. I would like to finish it up before the end of the year. At least finish up the story, and then just like come back and do side missions as I feel motivated. I've been doing most of the side missions as they come up, but like I plowed through like 3 or 4 story missions today, so I'll probably just kind of stick with that for the most part. But yeah, that's pretty much been what I've been playing over the past week.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know offhand who did the port for the Portal games for the Switch?
I'm not sure. It's possible it was even Valve themselves. Let me I'll boot it up and check and see if it shows anything. I don't remember seeing anything in the like a startup screen or whatever, but yeah, I mean Valve is the only thing that pops up beforehand, so I think Valve did it themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, they're excellent ports. They have the Steam achievements and everything as well. So.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's not connected to Steam. Like, you don't sign into your Steam account, unfortunately. Because if I did, then I'd be like, oh, hey, I could do some more, work on getting the rest of the achievements for Portal 2. But, no, it doesn't have that. Still kind of cool, though. I mean, for people who want to do that, I think that before I would even consider trying to get the achievements for Portal 2 on the Switch, I would just do it on PC and Steam Deck first, because I've already got a lot more of the achievements that way. So, yeah. Before we get into news, which we don't have a lot, of course, did you get anything exciting for Christmas?
Well, one thing that I sort of got that was gifted that I'm interested in trying out, just because I know that this one at least should be one that I enjoy, was Spider-Man Remastered.
Oh, sweet.
That's yeah. So I am looking forward to trying that out, because I definitely feel like out of all of them, that one will be the one that I actually enjoy the most, and will,
Yeah.
despite the fact that there are those like stealth segments that are scattered here and there,
Yeah.
the core game should be fantastic. And also the fact that, from what I've heard, this is also a very good PC port, so
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, very good PC port. Steam Deck, pretty much your best bet is to aim for 40 frames per second, because you're not going to get 60 out of it, at least not without going like really low settings, and that would kind of defeat the purpose a little bit. And even then, I don't think you'd be able to get a consistent 60, at least not outdoors, which is where you're going to be spending most of your time. So, aiming for 40, it's a good balance between 30 and 40. I mean, between 30 and 60. That's what I went for, and it mostly maintained it. So it was pretty good. But yeah, I played most of Spider-Man Remastered on the Steam Deck. And if you have a PC that can do more, of course, then definitely, play it on PC when you can. But
Yeah.
the Steam Deck is a good option for when you don't have the ability to play it at your desktop or laptop or whatever. So yeah, you can definitely get 60 and above on a regular PC. It's just on the Steam Deck, 40 is your best friend. So
Okay.
let's see here. Any other exciting gifts for Christmas?
Nothing that I would say that was really something that just a big wow. I mean, I got some good stuff.
Right.
Just nothing that I would say was a large thing. I would say.
Right, of course.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, of course I got this great ugly sweater. The potatoes, boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. I got that, which just came today. But my wife got me a new cutting board. Nice. Ooh. It's longer and I think a little wider than our current sizes, but I haven't had a ton of chances to use it, mostly because we've been just doing a lot of leftovers the past few days from Christmas and all that. But the little bit that I've used it, of course, it's great, and it's something that I'll use all the time for years and years and years to come. So I'm excited about it. And otherwise, like, I got us a bunch of movies for Christmas just because I always look out for cheap movies this time of year. Grab a bunch of Blu-rays. I think the most I spent on any of them was like maybe $7. Most of them were $5 or $6. So I got like 8 movies. And I got the soundtrack for Red Dead Redemption 2. Well, it's the score for it rather than the actual full soundtrack. Because I don't think that they put them together to have both the score and the soundtrack together. I think it's just separated, which is kind of dumb. But the score is more what I care about anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously I got the games from you, and we'll definitely be checking those out as I get time. But anyway, I think that's it, basically. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into the news. Now, we are going to save our Game of the Year talk for the end, but really there's not a whole lot of news otherwise, so we'll get to that after we cover these couple of other topics. So first of all, of course, we have talked previously about the Insomniac leak. We're not going to get into all the details of that again, but what we are going to talk about is that there is a playable build of the PC version of Wolverine that has leaked and technically is available to download. So people have been playing it. Now, I'm going to say we are not going to show any footage from it. I would definitely not recommend downloading it. I think that's, even if you're sure that you can find a reputable place to download it, it seems like it's a big risk for a small reward, because you're just getting basically a very early version, and the only thing you get out of it is a chance to to make fun of PlayStation fanboys because you get to play the game before they do, but not a smart plan because they'll come after you, pretty much guaranteed. So don't be stupid, please. But it does appear that, I mean, I'm kind of getting some conflicting information on, based on the leaks here, whether or not this is something that would be more of a day and date release, or if it's more likely to be a later release as with the other ones. I think from some of the information I've gathered, and I don't have like specific sources, but it seems more likely that it is just following the same pattern of, probably be at least a year, probably 2 years before it releases on PC after it comes to PlayStation. But anyway, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it definitely was interesting to see that the PC build, that there actually was a PC build already in development. And as you said, I also didn't see anything that actually specified when the date would be for PC. Which, I mean, there was one thing that said maybe it would be within a year. But that one was not certain because I know that person just like posted a couple different screenshots of things that I don't know where those screenshots came from.
Right.
So I don't know like how reputable those screenshots were, but based on what they said, this is something that would happen within a year. So it's not like we would have to wait too long. But personally speaking, I would guess maybe 1 full year, then it's then it's released on PC. I don't think it's gonna be something that's gonna be too long. Yeah, I mean, maybe Sony will decide to do that, but I don't know. I mean, especially if they're sort of hurting for cash right now, because I do know that there have been some talks about potential layoffs across all their studios. But if they're trying to just like get as much cash as possible, I would assume, or at least I would guess, that they would try to put the game out as soon as possible on PC just to get the extra revenue, rather than say stretch the release dates out as far as possible and then possibly have, say, the same returns as their current PC ports are, because of the fact that because they're so staggered, people have either bought the games or they won't wait for a full price, and they'll just wait for the games to go on sale to get them cheaper, since the games are already cheaper on PS5. So that's sort of like what I see for as far as when the game actually will be released.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens, but I think it's just safe to assume that it's not going to be day and date. I know that there was definitely a video or two that I saw that were clickbaity and were saying that, oh, it's going to be day and date. And I mean, yes, it's being developed at the same time, of course, but that doesn't mean it's coming out at the same time. So,
right.
I don't know. Either way, one of the things that's important to point out with this playable build, at least with the PlayStation version, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with PC, is that in order to be able to use it, you have to essentially sign into Insomniac servers, which means that basically they would know where you are, who you are, essentially, if you try playing this game. So hopefully nobody will be foolish enough to actually play it. You're not really getting anything out of it. I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's worth the risk. It's not worth going to prison. It's just not. A video game is not worth your life. I'm sorry. Never. Okay. But speaking of leaks, there's also been a leak of the source code for Grand Theft Auto 5. And along with that, some information on both Grand Theft Auto 6 and Bully 2. Which Bully 2's been long rumored / hoped for by people who really enjoyed the first game. I played the first game a very, very small amount because it was just really hard to control on PC. Um, but I mean, it's probably better by now. Probably if you get the digital version, it has built-in controls to be able to use a controller. But when I tried playing it, it was only mouse and keyboard, and it was hard to control. So I just never really got into it. But yeah, so I mean, the Grand Theft Auto 5 source code, okay, it gives some interesting insights in that there's various like early things that didn't make it into the final game that you can look at, but still not something that would be smart to look at. And the thing about Grand Theft Auto 6, it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know who's so desperate that they need to know that information now, unless it's just that they want to spread it online and once again risk their lives essentially for that. But whatever. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's just crazy how we had the GTA 6 leak last week, and then all of a sudden, and then now we have GTA 5 getting leaked. This, I feel, probably might, in a way, make things somewhat easier for people who make mods, since if they have access to the source code, they can probably have better idea of how to work with the code to make certain things run, or might have an easier way to implement mods they're working on. So that's something that I think could be very useful for them. Maybe in some aspects, say for example, if you're trying to, say, get a game to run, like say you have the game, but you really just don't feel like playing the game with DRM, you can find a way to like make the game, or at least unlock the DRM and like play the game, your copy, without having that in there. So I think that as far as with coding goes, or any sort of development, I think that's pretty interesting. I will say though that I don't think that it's been such a long time since Bully 1 came out. I don't know how much I really feel about this Bully 2 leak. I mean, I know that there's something there, but that could just be something that's still something that they have in development. They have it in a back burner, and are just saying, yeah, here's something that we could come back to later on. I don't think that's something we'll actually see anytime soon.
Right.
I mean, if it is, that's good for people who enjoyed the first one. I played a little bit of the first one. What was that? Like, was that PS2 or PS3 that I came on originally?
PS2.
Okay, so yeah, I played a little bit of that. Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I played that, but I don't know. I mean, I know that it's definitely interesting, and I don't know if more people might be doing stuff. Like, I know that the person who did, or as far as like people do these types of leaks with Rockstar, because I know that the one person who got caught for leaking GTA 6, they put him, I forget what it was hospital, life hospital term or something like that, just because he sort of has, I guess you could say, an addiction to hacking, that like he almost can't stop himself from doing it. And the fact that while he was actually under watch, under supervision, he actually hacked, I can't remember what he hacked, but he hacked into some database while he was under watch using only a Amazon Fire Stick and a cell phone.
Yep.
So, I mean, I feel like we still might be getting some sort of leaks and rumors or leaks and hacks going on, because I feel that more people are just getting incentivized to keep doing this. So it's interesting in that aspect, but as you mentioned, it probably won't be worth it in the long run.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do, but it's just, looking at this stuff just isn't worth it. I mean, it's one thing if you find, like, okay, someone posted it up on YouTube, you watch the video before it goes down. That's one thing, but don't be the fool who downloads these things. And, these people who want to hack, I mean, they know the risk they're taking when they hack. And I think the majority of them, hopefully, are not the kind of people who think that somehow they can just get away with it, that nothing's going to happen if they get caught. But whatever. We are going to move on. So now we get to get into the meat of our discussion tonight. So this is the last episode of 2023, with tonight being December 27th. By the time you hear this, it will be December 29th. So we're going to talk about our games of the year. And I know that neither of us played a bunch of games that actually released this year. But what we do have is we have a top 3 of games that released this year. But then we also have a top 5 of games we played for the first time this year. Or, yes, games we played for the first time this year. So some of them will be games that released this year, some of them will not. But either way, we are going to discuss this. So Justin, start off with your number 3 game for this year. Of course, if you have any honorable mentions, you can mention those beforehand or at the very end, whichever you prefer.
Okay. I guess for number 3, I will say Choo Choo Survivor. And I've mentioned this before, I think earlier in our episodes, but it's pretty much just a Vampire Survivors clone, but this unique spin is that you're playing as a train. It's linear, so on one end, you don't have that open world aspect of Vampire Survivors, but at the same time, you do have some sort of goal that you are working towards, and that is just basically reach the end of the line and try to survive. And while it is a bit bare bones, I still think that it's a fun game. You'll definitely spend way less time in this game than you would Vampire Survivors, but for the fun that you will have in there, and it's still a cheap game similar to Vampire Survivors. Like, I think this one, last time I recall seeing, is probably about $2. So it's still a pretty good game for what you're getting, with your money. So that is my number 3 game of this year.
All right. Well, I think I want to. I think I'm going to start off with my honorable mentions for the year because one of them is actually not a full game. It's a DLC. The other one is a full game, but neither one of them quite made the top 3. I actually realized that I played more of the games that came out this year than I thought I did. But either way, I still am just going to mention these. So something that came out this year, which would definitely make my game of the year list if it was a full game, even though it's really the length of a full game, is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. This is a fantastic DLC that came to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was already a fantastic game, probably the best of the series. And it just it wrapped everything up really, really well. And I don't know if you've played any of the Xenoblade games, but this one is just between 3 itself and then Future Redeemed, it's just a perfect capstone to the trilogy. But then my second honorable mention, and this is going to be more brief here, is just Diablo 4. I mean, there are definitely issues with monetization and everything. Lots of criticisms for people to have. I do wish it had an offline mode, but it is still a really fun game. I mean, action RPG, dungeon crawler. It's worth playing, and I've had fun playing with my wife whenever we get a chance to play at the same time and all of that. But my actual number 3 game for this year is Starfield. Now, I haven't completed the story in it, but I have put like 70 hours into the game, and I still want to play more, and it's just... I keep getting sidetracked away from it, and I feel like, well, waiting isn't really going to hurt anything, because I can still come back to this game later, and it will just be better than it is right now, because they're always making improvements to it, and hopefully, if what they've said about new ways to travel is true, then maybe they'll add some land vehicles you can use to get around a little more easily. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, Starfield is my number 3 game for this year. So, any thoughts or questions before you move on to your number 2?
No, I think.
Okay.
Well, actually, I guess one question I have is just, and for I guess Diablo 4, do you happen to know offhand if there are any sort of major developments that they might, as far as like, do you think they might add it on an offline mode down the road?
I think that's going to be up to Microsoft. Now that they're owned by Microsoft, I'm hoping maybe that'll happen, but they haven't said anything about that happening, so at least as of right now, there's no indication that that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get those changes. I mean, Microsoft has made a couple different changes that were good. I mean, they did eventually like allow, or at least allow easy anti-cheat to run on the Steam Deck. So that's something that wasn't there. They made that change later on. So hopefully offline mode is another one that they decide to add on.
I hope so. It would be nice. So what's your number 2 game for this year?
My number 2 game is Gunbrella. It's, I guess the best way I could describe this game is you're playing an older Quentin Tarantino movie, but there's Lovecraftian elements in there. So like, I guess the basic premise I'll say is you're a father who is trying to find his daughter and avenge the death of his wife, but your only weapon, and this is also the clue to what has transpired, was a umbrella that is also a gun. And the gameplay is very smooth, very good, especially once you understand how it works. You're able to just move around freely. You're able to glide with your umbrella, or gunbrella, I should say, and it's very nice to play as. And you do get different types of ammo, different weapons that you can also use, in addition to like your base ones. And like the one in the gameplay is a special one that's sort of near mid-end of the game, but like that's especially for the part of the Lovecraftian part of the game. It's not long, but once you actually, like, if you try to do the different endings, or there are two endings, well, 2 endings, 2.5 I should say, and it really just depends on sort of 1 or 2 choices you make early on that will impact the type of ending that you get. But it's a pretty satisfying game that I thought it was very good. Runs great on Steam Deck, so you can play on that. That's actually how I completely played the game. So
Nice.
It runs well on there. Now, one thing that I actually wish there was something that was changed is the fact that the game always turns on film grain, and even when you turn it off, if you go exit back to the menu, or if you start the game, or if you launch the game all over again, it turns back on.
Oh,
Not sure why, but yeah.
Not cool. Yeah, looking at the gameplay, it kind of makes me think of Cave Story a bit. I don't know if it's more like Cave Story, or if it's a Metroidvania, or well, I guess it's probably not a Metroidvania.
Well, not completely. I mean, there are some sort of Metroid ish aspects, but you're not really focusing too much on collecting a lot of different power-ups and also most of the, well, no, I wouldn't really say it's Metroidvania just because most of the areas, or at least maybe about half of them, you only really visit once, and then once the story progresses, you're pretty much blocked from getting that back there ever again.
Okay. Either way, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Cool. All right, well, my number 2 game for this year, and I apologize, the footage is not the best because I recorded it today and it's been months since I last played it, but is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, it's hard to explain exactly everything that's great about this game. Obviously, the 30 frames per second is not great. And when it drops into the 20s, it's not great. But the game itself takes the things that were great about Breath of the Wild, the exploration, just the discovery aspects, all the little secrets hidden all over the world, and just adds to it. And they improve things, they add more to it. You get two entirely new areas. Even though technically you're going over the same map that you went over in Breath of the Wild, it doesn't feel the same because there's so much more to it. There's a lot more like hidden caves and completely new shrines, and then you have the entire underground area, which is just as large as the main map is. And you'll definitely come across stuff that's like, okay, this is familiar, but there's so much that isn't familiar. And then the building mechanics that you can use, like, I'm not really a fan of building stuff. That's why I just am not interested in playing like Minecraft. But the ways that you can use this to do different things creatively is just really interesting, and it's completely optional for the most part. Like, there are very few situations where you actually have to build something, but you can definitely build some creative stuff, and there's like some insane builds that people have done. Obviously some inappropriate ones as well, because that's the way it goes. But it's just a fantastic game, and I put probably, over 100 hours into it, and I didn't even finish everything. I didn't find all the shrines. I know basically where they are because they're the locations of the shrines correspond with the locations of the light roots in the underground. And I found all of those. So I could technically find all of the shrines. It's not always obvious where they are, and anybody watching my gameplay will find that I definitely spent some time struggling to find a certain shrine and before I stopped. So, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, fantastic game, well worth playing.
Did they sort of keep the dungeons about the same, or did they add dungeons to it as compared to, say, Breath of the Wild?
They're much more dungeon-like than they were in Breath of the Wild, but even with that being the case, they're still not as dungeony as an old school Zelda. If that makes sense. So they're kind of like somewhere in between what you get in Breath of the Wild and what you get in a traditional Zelda. And I think that for the most part they were still good. They felt less samey than the ones in Breath of the Wild, but I don't know. I will say though that the bosses for the dungeons are all great. I can't think of any of them that weren't good. I'm pretty sure all of them were really good, if I remember correctly. There's at least 2 or 3 of them that like are especially memorable. And without spoiling anything, the final fight against Ganon, probably my favorite Ganon fight next to Ocarina of Time. Which says a lot, because that one, Ocarina of Time to me still has the classic, like, it is the best fight of them all in terms of mechanics and cinematics and everything else, it's just like brilliant. And the one for Tears of the Kingdom, I think, is probably the second best after that. So, very cool stuff. All right, so I mean, I know the answer to this, but as I mentioned to you, of course, obviously, if the game came out this year, technically for the first time, even if it's technically a re-release, but not entirely, I would let you, go ahead and put it as in your list. So, your game of the year for games released this year.
Okay, yeah. So my game of the year for games released this year is Last of Us Remastered. Okay, now it is Metroid Prime Remastered, and I mean, I've said this before. What can I say? This game is a classic. They definitely did a good job with remastering this game. In fact, I even want to say that this is even just more of a simple remaster, just because there was so much polish. They completely redid a lot of the graphics, so I almost would even say technically this is a remake.
Yeah.
Even if some stuff hasn't really been added into it, but there was just so much done to make it look better, that I think it does a good job at that aspect. Really enjoyable playing this game, whether it's on docked, whether in handheld. It's fun. I mean, again, this is Metroid Prime. It's already a great game. Now it just looks better. And also, I guess you could say it's even better because now you can even take this on the go with you.
Yep.
And you couldn't do that with the GameCube version. And still, 60 frames per second. Still, both handheld docked. So it's still a win.
Definitely. Yep, it is deserving. I mean, the only reason I wouldn't include this in mine is just because I actually did play more of the games that released this year, and I felt like, at least in this particular situation, they're a little more deserving, but that's not to discount how great it is, because it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. So, all right. Well, my game of the year, which should come to as a surprise to no one who has been listening, is Ghost Runner 2. There's too much good stuff about this, and I can't say enough good stuff about this game. It is an improvement over the first game in so many ways. Has a lot more enemy variety. Not that the first game didn't have enemy variety, but this one has even more enemy variety. Has much less of a, you have to do the boss fights this particular way in order to complete it, and you actually have freedom to approach things the way that you want to, for the most part. But just some of those boss fights are just super memorable, even more so than the first game. Obviously, my favorite one being the Sandworm, which is the gameplay that I'm displaying here. It was just, it's such an incredible game, and I look forward to whatever DLC it comes out with, because of course I did, pre-purchase like the deluxe edition that comes with the season pass, so any DLC that releases I'll be able to play. I'll probably end up replaying this one. I'm going to make myself wait to replay it a little while so that I'm not just replaying it right away, considering the fact that, it's only been a couple months since I finished it. If even that. But yeah, it's absolutely stellar game. Definitely my favorite game of this year, at least in terms of the new releases. So yeah, that's that. That's about all I really need to say about it. I've gushed about it enough as it is. So. All right, so let's get into our top 5 for the year, and this is games that are new to us. So some of them will be games that already appeared on our previous list, but some of it will be stuff that we've just played for the first time this year and may have released a long time ago. So Justin, start us off.
All right, so for my number five game of the year that I've played, that will be Total War Shogun 2. This actually is my first Total War game that I've ever played. I never really was a big strategy person just because I don't think I'm good at planning stuff out far ahead.
Yeah.
But played this with a friend. It's very fun. It's very interesting trying to just like plan out strategies and also looking around at one area, but then seeing things completely change based on how other characters are playing. And we've gotten very far into the game. We've already sort of overrun the capital and have taken over, but now we're pretty much just trying to take over the rest of Japan and face off against two opposing clans. So whenever we get back into finishing that off, it'll be very interesting to see if we can maintain our hold or if we will lose it all.
Yeah. I haven't been able to get into those kinds of games. I mean, the only like real-time strategy game I ever really got into was Roller Coaster Tycoon. And I still think it's fantastic, but it's just something about those games tends to kind of stress me out, and well, maybe not stress me out. It's just more like I don't know what it is, but I haven't been able to get into any other ones. So, but that's still cool. All right, so I need to give a couple of honorable mentions. One of which I've already talked about, which is Starfield. It's not making the top 5 for the year of all the games I played, but that's just because I played so many great games this year, even if most of them were not new games. But I do want to mention Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, because that came to PC this year. And as with basically all the Ratchet & Clank games, it is a fantastic game. It's not super long. I think it maybe took me 20 hours at the most to 100% it. Or at least, well, I should say 100% in terms of getting all of the achievements. So... but I played that mostly on Steam Deck, mostly because I wasn't home during the time I was playing it. I was mostly out at my in-laws' house in Wyoming, so... but it was a fantastic game, so it deserves that honorable mention, not making my top 5. But my number 5 game for this year came out a little while ago, and that is Outer Wilds. This is one of those games that it's something really special. Definitely one of the best games I played this year. Both the base game and the DLC. It's got controls that take a little bit to wrap your brain around, but once you do, it's really good. And you have to deal with a time loop, which might not sound the best, but the thing is that, just like with like Majora's Mask and things like that, any knowledge you obtain during a run gets preserved for the next run. So then, you can skip past things that you got previously in order to be able to move forward and get more information and find out more of the things that basically tell you why this 22-minute cycle just keeps happening over and over, why there's this time loop. And then the DLC just kind of adds even more to that, adds additional layers basically, and it's just, the whole thing is super fantastic. Highly recommend this game and its DLC, and I'm planning, when the physical version comes out for Switch next year, because it's finally coming to Switch, I'm grabbing the physical version because I just want to support the developers, even if I don't play it on Switch, which I probably won't, because at least from what I saw, visually it looked like it's probably not terrible, but I'm pretty sure it's only going to run at 30, and I played this game at worst at 40 when I was playing on Steam Deck. and the rest of the time I was playing on my desktop, and I don't even know what frame rate I was getting, but it was something ridiculous, probably 180 frames per second or whatever. I don't know. Something ridiculous. But yeah, Outer Wilds. That's my number 5. So you're number 4 for this year.
My number 4 is Transformers Fall of Cybertron. Um, finally found a copy of this game, which was kind of hard and rare since the game's been delisted everywhere. But Amazon was selling it, so I said now's a good chance to try it out. And I feel like this is truly the Transformers experience that I've always wanted. Something that truly focuses on the Transformers and doesn't get caught up with, say, humans. And that really was something that always bothered me, especially even as a kid, was I don't care about the humans. I just want to see the giant robots and fight it out. So this was something that I really wanted, and this was a perfect experience. I wish that I was able to play the first game, War for Cybertron. I'll still see if I can find a cheap enough copy, since that game is also delisted, but I'm hoping I can find something like that, and then, even though it's out of order, still go back and play that game. But from what I'm playing so far with this game, it's just so much fun. While there are a lack of graphic settings and other settings for the game, it still runs well. I think that, a lot of the combat works. I think that being able to transform in and out whenever you want, with the exception of a few key areas, it works out well. I like being able to switch out types of weapons you can use. It works great, and it even runs on the Steam Deck. So I think overall this is a very fun game, and I enjoy it so far.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a fun game. I just can't bring myself to spend, $40-$50 on it. It's just a little too much. Especially because it's not like I really need another game. That's too often the case, so it is what it is. But that's still cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you've been enjoying that one. So my number 4 is actually just Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I really did enjoy this game a lot, and I'm not even gonna do gameplay again because it'll just be the same clip that I played earlier. But it's fantastic. I think it's really well worth playing. But it didn't quite make it as high in my top 5 because of the absolute bangers I played otherwise this year. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. So you're number 3 for the year.
My number 3 is Yakuza Kiwami. I played Yakuza 0 last year, and I played it through. I enjoyed it. But I think that for a lot of things that I enjoyed about that game, this one does quite a few things better. I think partially just one of the reasons why is the fact that this game, that Zero, I enjoyed the story, but I felt that it was a bit too long. This one seemed to have a more concise story and was able to go on without me feeling burned out before the game even concluded. So I think that it definitely did that better. I still like overall a lot of the combat of the game. Now, granted, in the video clip, it has been a while since I played the game, so I didn't completely remember all the controls. But once you actually play the game for a while and you do understand how it works, it's fun. Unlocking the different moves works. You still also have a lot of side missions you can do. You have a bunch of other types of stuff that don't even relate to the main game. Like, you can do the racing, you can do the different karaoke events, you can do the batting stuff. Like, there's a lot of side content in the Yakuza games. So it changes with each game, but there's still a lot of content there. The characters are great, and I mean, the whole story of the game is sort of just like something out of some sort of TV serial drama. Just that's the best way I can describe it, because you're always going for these twists and turns, and just when you think you understand what's going on, and you think, all right, we're reaching the end, something happens, and it just keeps going on from there. So it is quite a roller coaster of emotion, especially by the time you reach the end of this game. So I really enjoy this game, and yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's another series I've been interested in checking out, but I just haven't brought myself. I think like if I could get to a point when I could get like the entire series for $20,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or at least all the main games up to this point, I might go for it. But I bought too many games already this year and every other year. So yeah. All right, well, my number 3 game for this year, and man, the top 3 was tough. But my number 3 game for this year is Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I've enjoyed all of the Metal Gear Solid games so far. Even with Peace Walker being only 20 frames per second, I really enjoyed that game overall. But 5 just, in terms of gameplay, it is the best of the series. And, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have as engaging of a story necessarily. I mean, well, I don't know if it's... I haven't fully decided what I think about the story because I haven't finished the story. But I just know that what I've played of this game, it's been so much fun, and just the gameplay is so good. And... like, I'm glad that I still have plenty left to play. I mean, part of me wants to be done more just because I want to finish it before the end of the year, but not because I want to stop playing, because I still want to play. So most likely I'm just gonna stick with it and play through until I'm actually finished. I think I only have like the percentage of the missions completed is like 30 something percent, but that's counting both the main and the side missions. The actual story missions, though, I think I'm about... I think I just finished maybe mission 29, and there's 50 missions. So, yeah. So I'm a little more than halfway through in terms of the story, but I mean, I think what I appreciate about this game the most is that it takes all of the gameplay elements of the previous games and just makes them better. Like, you have the open world, which is big, but it doesn't feel like overwhelming. It's not like there's just an endless number of icons on your map like an Ubisoft game. But there's different bases, bases and outposts and stuff you can capture. There's side objectives you can do in missions. Plenty of the missions, the side missions, when you complete them, they'll come back up to where you can go back and complete them again later on if you want to get more. Because like you build up staff to work on your base, and so you can go back and do those missions to build up staff or build up resources, funds to develop further projects and so on and so forth. But it just has a great balance of stealth and action, and visually it still looks great even though the game came out 8 years ago, and it runs incredibly well on Steam Deck. I mean, it was running at 60 no problem on the base Steam Deck. It's running at 90 no problem on the OLED, and I love this game so much. And yeah, it was difficult between this and my number 2 deciding which one goes higher. But because I haven't actually finished this one, I have to put it at number 3. So
Okay, that makes sense, because I was thinking to myself, I'm surprised this is only number 3.
yeah.
I am interested in seeing what beat this out.
You'll definitely understand when I get to it. So. All right, your number 2 for this year.
My number 2, I'm going to keep this simple. This is actually going to be Metroid Prime Remastered. And I mean, I've pretty much said everything about this game at this point, but only reason why I'm not ranking this higher is because I feel that because for the most part this is the same game, even though I enjoy it so much, there's one game that I played this year that I feel like it gave me a somewhat better experience overall than this one. So Metroid Prime is number 2.
All right. Well, my number 2 is Metal Gear Solid 3. And the reason for this is because not only, I mean, even before I played Phantom Pain, it was without question my favorite of the Metal Gear Solid series so far. Even up through all the ones I played up before that. And I enjoyed this game so much on my first playthrough, which I played it on Vita the first time, that I got it for the 3DS because I wanted to see what it was like on 3DS anyway, since I hadn't really tried it out and I had to spend like $80 for a physical copy, but because it wasn't on the eShop anymore, it's been delisted for years. But I enjoyed it so much that I played through it a second time on 3DS, even though the frame rate got really, really bad, especially during boss fights. And then when I found out that there was a mod to make it actually maintain 30 FPS on the 3DS, or on the new 3DS, I played through it a third time. And that should say all you need to know. This game is a masterpiece. From start to finish. Now, I will say I didn't pay much attention to the story on subsequent playthroughs because it's like, okay, I know the story. I don't really need to go through it again. But the gameplay is so good all across the board, and it is utterly fantastic. And I'm hoping at some point that Konami will fix the PC port, or at least that it'll be fixed enough to where I feel like I can justify spending the money on it, because right now I don't feel like it's worth the amount that they charge for it. Especially because I can emulate the PS3 version, and that works. And this is basically the PS3. I mean, the remaster that came out is basically the PS3 360 version. So, but yeah, it's just an utterly fantastic game. The only thing that's really wrong with the version you get for most of them is that you can't walk while crouching, except on the 3DS version. But I think the 3DS version was basically remade specifically for the 3DS. But at the same time, when I played it on the 3DS, I kind of felt like the crouch walking wasn't necessarily super helpful because the levels were designed without crouch walking in mind. So, and it's like, so okay, so the Metal Gear Solid 3 does not have crouch walking. And then Peace Walker does not have crawling. You can't crawl at all. You can crouch walk, but you can't crawl. And of course, the levels are designed with the crouch walking in mind versus crawling. But anyway, it's got some quirks, but for the most part, I just think the gameplay systems all across the board are helpful. I was really worried about whether the survival elements would end up making it a pain, making it like annoying to play, but it really wasn't a problem at all. And it is completely possible to get through the whole game without killing anyone. I mean, you might kill like animals. You have to kill animals for food, but you don't have to kill anyone. You can trank everybody. And I just find that a much more interesting challenge. Plus, if you trank the bosses, you get camo from each of them. And one of the camos you can get makes so that your steps are completely silent. So nobody can hear you when you walk in behind them. And there's other, various things that you get out of it. The funny thing is that if you complete the game without killing anyone at all. In the end, you get the boss's like super powerful gun with infinite ammo, which is basically it's a killing machine. But you only get it if you get through the whole game without killing anyone. So, but yes, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater is without question my number 2 game for this year.
And I guess just one thing, just to clarify, the only exception would be like obviously for bosses, right?
No, you can drink them.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
I mean, it's
okay. No. I just thought that was interesting.
What it does is it drains their stamina. Because this game adds. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure Metal Gear Solid 2 added stamina as an option. I can't remember though if you could do it with all of the bosses, because like there's near the end you're fighting. You fight some actual Metal Gears, and in Metal Gear Solid 2. And those, you definitely can't. I'm pretty sure there's no stamina bar. But they're not... There's no people in them, so you're not killing anyone. And that one I didn't play non-lethal anyway. But yes. Yeah, you just... Every boss, you drain their stamina when you use those things.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yep.
Kojima thought of everything.
I mean... It's a brilliant game. It's so incredibly fantastic, and I just hope that the remake does the game justice.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Game of the year for 2023.
That is going to be a game called Blue Fire. I initially heard of this game because I heard it was a Souls-like game, and that immediately caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
But after playing the game completely, I would only say there's one thing that actually makes it a Souls-like, and that's just because of the fact that when you die, you lose all of your, I guess for lack of a better word, souls.
Mm-hmm.
But it is possible to get through the entire game without dying.
Oh.
And I only really actually died and that's only at the end at the final boss because I wasn't paying attention to my health and didn't heal myself.
Gotcha.
But I think the best way to describe this game is a Zelda-like, really.
Yeah.
Especially with Wind Waker, because the aesthetics are definitely there for Wind Waker. And overall, it really is just a Zelda game because you are going through different dungeons, you're trying to find different weapons and different equipment. You are trying to like improve your I guess magic and your health, which would be sort of like hearts. But overall, I definitely would say this, and even going through different environments, like you have, say, the forest level, you have your lava level, you have your water level, stuff that you would see, the type of dungeons you would see in a Zelda game are here. And I really don't know why people were touting this as a Souls-like, because it doesn't, apart from that one aspect of losing your souls, there's not really much there. Like, the difficulty in the game is not akin to a Dark Souls game. It's really just it's one difficulty that's standard, but it is a pretty fair and reasonable difficulty too. The only thing that I actually would say is difficult would be there are special challenge areas where you can try to complete them too. I think I can't remember what you're supposed to get them, because I know you don't get them for getting stuff to improve your health, but it is some sort of challenges you can do. Later ones are difficult just because the timing of it, because they're pretty much just platforming sessions. And so I guess in that sense, it is sort of... They're definitely difficult, and they can be... You have to time stuff differently, and it definitely can take time to get through them. But I think besides from those, it's just a very simple game that people can get into, not have to feel about being stressed out. And I mean, the game also runs well on Steam Deck. You can get a good 60 frames per second. Looks great there. I think that if people are looking for a game to play, they don't necessarily have, say, a Switch or they have like say a Nintendo console but they want to play a Zelda game, this is actually a good game. And actually I think this game is also on PlayStation and maybe Switch, I think I remember. So it is a multi-plat title, so people can try it out on other systems as well.
Nice. Yeah, looking at the gameplay, it looks really cool. Like I love the art style, and it definitely reminded me more of Zelda in terms of how it looks. But that's very cool. Yeah, I never even heard of that one, but I'll have to keep an eye on that, see if it goes on sale sometime and check it out. I'm sure I'll probably die more than you do because you're like a pro at the Souls games
Oh gosh.
and everything, but I'm definitely not. So either way, I think it looks great. I definitely would like to check that out. Now, for my game of the year, it's exactly the same as my other game of the year, and that's Ghost Runner 2. Yeah, big surprise. No, I mean, one thing I didn't mention before, and you know, I mean, well, I should say I didn't mention it this time, but I have mentioned in the past, is I also just really love the platforming sections and just the challenges related to those, because it's something so different and it requires a different kind of reflexes, but there's still a puzzle solving element to a degree with it. And I don't know, I absolutely love this game and the first game, and Ghost Runner 2. It was such a pleasant surprise when they announced it, and it was just such an excellent game that I want to play again and again, for sure. I know I'm never going to get through a whole level without dying. I don't have that kind of skill, but I wish I could, because I would love to get 100% achievements on these games. So, but yeah, that's my game of the year, to no one's surprise. All right. Well, any thoughts or honorable mentions you want to bring up?
I guess one kind of honorable mention, which actually check that. There is one thing I thought. Let me just confirm this actually now at the top of my head, because if I am wrong, then I don't actually want to make this mistake. Okay, never mind. This actually was not. I thought that this game came out this year, but it did actually came out last year, and I did play it last year, so never mind there.
What game was it, just out of curiosity?
It was going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
But I thought that came out earlier this year, which I was wondering why did I mention it on my top 5 or at least my top 3, but then I remembered no, it's just because it came out last year.
Yeah.
But I guess sort of as I wasn't really gonna mention this because I didn't get too far, but I'll say as an honorable mention for games that I played this year is Doom 2016. That game is, from what I've played so far, it's fast paced, but it's so much fun. And it is a challenge for me just because the style of shooter is different from what I've experienced before with other ones, but it is it's great, and I really enjoy this so far. And from what I've heard, Eternal is better than this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know if it's necessarily better. They're both so incredibly good, and they do some different things, and there are some things that I think are definitely better about Eternal, but then there are some things I like better about 2016. But I mean, they're both stellar games. So good. I still got to finish up playing 2016 on PC, because I finished both 2016 and Eternal on Switch. Because this was long before the Steam Deck was even a thing, that I finished both of them, and I got the DLC on Switch once again before the Steam Deck was a thing, and then found out later that the Steam Deck was a thing. And I never finish the DLC, and I'm probably not going to, at least not on the Switch. I'll just, whenever I finish 2016 on PC, then I will play Eternal on PC to completion and then play through the DLC that way, because it plays so much better. I mean, the fact is that like on the Switch version, I had to play on I think it's Hurt Me Plenty difficulty, which is basically normal, and I still struggled at times. I'm playing on Ultra Nightmare on PC and Steam Deck, and I don't have nearly as many struggles. I'm playing like, which is basically like hard difficulty, I guess, or like maybe it's ultra hard. I don't know exactly how that works out. I know that there's additional difficulties that unlock after you complete that highest difficulty. That's the highest base difficulty is what it is. But
oh wow. Oh wow.
The main thing with those games is you just have to keep moving. You have to keep moving, and that's how it works. The big difference in terms of how everything works in Eternal versus 2016 is that in Eternal, in order to get ammo, you have to use your chainsaw. So every time, I mean, like if you need to restock your ammo, you're not going to find it lying around as much. You have to use your chainsaw in order to get more ammo.
Whoa.
But of course, your chainsaw also, I can't remember exactly how everything works. It's been a little while since I've played it, but I'm pretty sure that's the only way that you get that restocked. I think there's only health and armor that are lying around the levels, and then you get your ammo specifically from chainsawing enemies. So
okay,
it takes some getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's great. And then the shotgun, the super shotgun, also has a hook shot for it.
What?
I don't think you get that right. I mean, when you start the game, I think it just comes up later, like a little ways into the game. You get it. It's basically just so like, well, it's a hook shot, and it's a hook shot, hook shot to enemies, and yeah, it's fantastic. They're great, fantastic games. So yes, very good one. Not super long, but really really good. Anyway, very cool. Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of games I played this year, but most of them have been older games. Like I played Ori and the Blind Forest the first time this year, because I got the physical on Switch for Christmas last year. And I mean, it looks beautiful on the Switch, especially on that OLED screen. 60 frames per second, no problem. I'm pretty sure the same is true for Will of the Wisps, which I haven't played yet. But yeah, that was great. Played through the first two Ace Attorney games on 3DS, which were great. You know, not an accurate representation of the U.S. legal system at all, but they're definitely a fun change of pace. And there's lots of games that I've started and haven't finished this year. But anyway, don't think there's really anything else to mention here. So
I guess I have one question, I would say. And this is, I know that you said you didn't really necessarily have any plans, but would you say there you have maybe one or even two games that you would like to start in 2024?
I mean, there's lots of games I'd like to start in 2024. More than anything, I'm kind of wanting to start picking up some like older games I missed out on, like just various franchises I haven't played before. Like, yes, I technically started Devil May Cry this year, but that's a franchise that I wanted to play in the past, and I only just tried out this year and have held off because next year I kind of want to be more my year when I'm focusing on playing old franchises that I haven't touched before, or like Fallout is something I think I would like to get into a bit. I just haven't really decided where I want to start, if I actually want to try going all the way back to the original Fallout, or if I want to just jump into 4 and play that first, and then go back and play some of the earlier ones. Because I've already played a little bit of 4 now. I mean, only like 2 hours, but I liked what I played, and I'm trying to think of what are some other franchises that I was wanting to check out. Some of which I've bought, but I haven't tried out yet. There's still Beneath the Steel Sky that I had started, but I want to get back into that, play through the rest of that so that I can play the sequel that came out a few years ago, Beyond the Steel Sky. Assuming I actually finish up Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'd like to play the older Assassin's Creed games I haven't played. Just kind of slowly work my way through all those. Just looking through my Steam list here. Knights of the Old Republic 2. I still haven't played that. Mm-hmm. There's a few like random indie titles. Jet Set Radio is another one I'd like to get into. At the very least, I'll play enough to do a comparison between the Steam Deck and the Vita on that. And then I think there's like some old Final Fantasy games and various indie titles that I haven't tried out. Really, the main thing is I just kind of want to expand my horizons a bit and try out some different things I haven't tried before. Mix things up a little bit. But we'll talk about gaming resolutions next week, since next week will be the new year, and that'll be fun. Alright, so if we got nothing else, then we can move on into our recommendations and dissuasions. Start us off.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Alright, so for my recommendation, I'm actually going to recommend one game and dissuade you from playing one game. These are going to be games that released this year. So I sort of talked about this one already. I recommend playing Gumbrella. It's a nice indie game. It's not too long. It has some good gameplay mechanics. It has several different endings depending on how you make a decision early on in the game. A lot of the characters are pretty interesting to interact with. There's maybe one boss fight that was a bit of a pain, but other than that, though, everything else wasn't necessarily too difficult. Although actually, I think you can choose your difficulty settings. I think so, but I think I just stuck with the default setting. But yeah, I think it's a fun game to play. So that's my recommendation.
All right. Well, my recommendation is, as comes up occasionally, something food related. And that is Yellowbird hot sauces. They make various hot sauces. They have like jalapeno, habanero, serrano, ghost pepper, various things like that. And I really, really like their hot sauces. I think I discovered the habanero one last year probably. And then since then have discovered several others and really, really like the habanero and the ghost pepper ones. And even if like unless you're just super sensitive to spice and you just can't handle spice, these are not like top of the heat levels by any stretch. They add enough other stuff to help offset the spice, but they're still really, really good. And even if you just do a little bit at a time, they're fantastic. I'm almost out of all 3 different kinds I have right now, and I believe I found a place locally that sells them. But they're well worth it. So, really good. Yellowbird hot sauce. You can buy them on Amazon as well, or through their website. All right, dissuasion.
My dissuasion. This one is a bit sad for me because was something I was interested in getting. Is a game called Ghost Song. This game is a Metroidvania that I saw last year and was very interested in getting it once it released. It's a Metroidvania with some Souls-like elements, and while on pen and paper it sounds good, unfortunately, I feel like there were too many ideas that were thrown into the game that really kept it from being a enjoyable experience. I feel like the game, even if you're trying to play something on an easier difficulty, which is something I did for trying to get through the entire game without dying once for an achievement, unfortunately, your weapon is just way too weak, even in the beginning sections, that you really don't deal a lot of damage, even after you level up quite a bit. Even though you get a lot of different variety of skills you can use, they don't always feel valid as far as why they should be in the game. Unfortunately, I also feel like the story itself isn't necessarily as great as it could have been. It had some interesting ideas, but like I said, I think there were just too many ideas that were thrown into this game that kept it from being as good as it could have been. So for that reason, I will have to dissuade people from getting that one.
All right. Well, my dissuasion is do not download Wolverine. That playable version of Wolverine for PC. Yes, we are the PC master race. But do not download that game. And for that matter, do not download any other leaked games. Or well, specifically like just playable early builds. Don't touch those, because you are just going to get yourself in legal trouble. It's not worth losing your life, essentially, because even though you're not necessarily dying, going to prison just because you wanted to play a video game early, it's not worth it. So do not download this Wolverine version, no matter how much you are convinced that it's a legitimate thing, and it may very well be a legitimate download. It's just too great a risk. And if it's not a legitimate download, you could end up with a bunch of malware on your computer, and then you end up with a whole different situation, like getting your stuff hacked, getting your personal information stolen, getting your identity stolen. It's just like it's not worth it. Just wait. We can wait for the PC version to come out of Wolverine, which hopefully will actually be good. Someone did point out, and I think this is something, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, is that the gameplay looked like it was more God of War-like, which is actually good, because I love the recent God of War games. But anyway, yeah, don't download it. All right, so where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel, I am Xeracon, youtube.com/I am Xeracon, IAMXERACON. I currently don't have anything planned, but apart from maybe one thing I have, so we'll see what happens with that, and I am also trying to figure out what other content I'm going to put out soon, so we'll see what happens there. Something that should be coming out soon, though. I will say at least that.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. All right, well, you can find me, of course, at youtube.com/@thefrozengamer87. I have been putting up the Steam Deck OLED versus Switch OLED videos. Most recently, I put up Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of Elusive Age Definitive Edition. And it has all these videos have been doing really well, actually. Like, I think on average, the lowest I've gotten is like 1,500 views on each one, and a couple of them have hit over 2,000, which is really high for my channel. So it's been great. Been getting some subscribers, and I'm gonna be continuing to put one out every week. I think the next one will probably be Borderlands 2. I just need to re-record the Steam Deck footage, because unfortunately the way I was holding it under my phone when recording, it like cuts off the bottom half of the screen. So I just have to I have to re-record that portion. But I'll plan on getting that up. And I can now officially announce that starting January 1st, my new cooking channel will be launching. It's called Not Authentic But Delicious. That's youtube.com/NABD Cooking. That is at NABD Cooking. And so I already have about 11 or 12 different videos recorded. 3 of them are uploaded and scheduled to go up, 1 per week. I will be spending some time, particularly probably this Saturday, working on editing more of them, and I'm just going to try to see if I can get at least a couple more ready to publish before my vacation's over. But yeah, there's going to be various recipes. The ones I have scheduled so far, I have a Indian-inspired curry, and then the second week I have refried beans and Mexican rice, and then the third week I have a hearty chili. And I can't remember which one I have next that I'm going to be editing, but there's a variety of other things. There's there's green Thai curry, there's homemade bacon, there's avocado oil mayonnaise, there's shakshuka, there's a garlic chicken bacon pizza, there is a, what was the one I just made the other day? Excuse me. Yeah, I'm getting ready to sneeze. What was the... Oh, a Philly cheesesteak pizza. That's the one I just made. And a few other miscellaneous things. Breakfast burritos using some leftovers and things like that. But yeah, it's just a lot of good stuff coming up. And hopefully, even though we don't have a whole lot of listeners, some of you folks will check it out. Just giving this a try. It's one of my passions in life, and it's something that I'm actually good at, which is like probably the only thing in life I'm good at. So hopefully people will check out the recipes and enjoy them and try them out and make them themselves. Get more people cooking, making good food. So yeah, there's that.
I'm looking forward to those. I mean, you listed a lot of stuff, more than I actually like. I know you mentioned this before, and maybe a couple items, but you now have a full list of stuff, and I'm just thinking, wow, I can't wait for those.
Yeah, I can't even remember what all I have, but I do have a bunch of stuff recorded. I can't remember if I said homemade bacon. That is one thing that I have. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, point is that I do have a bunch of stuff already recorded and ready to go, and a bunch more planned. So it's just a matter of getting the videos edited, which can take a little bit of time, and then we'll just try to get them out once per week. That's the goal, is to have one every single week, and see if we can make anything out of this. So, all right, got anything else before we close out?
No, sir.
Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zaracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and until next time, don't forget to say I'll see you next year to everyone you see before January 1st. You monster. Have a great new year. Orange Box Podcast out.